Yes,
Think
man. Dale Thompson.
yes. How are you?
Good. How's your day going? Or your
Good,
morning?
good.
It's early for you. You're in New Zealand.
Yeah, it's 1:17.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
that's a heck of a time difference from here.
Uh, yeah.
How was your Good Friday? Did you do anything special? Do you go out on Good Friday or stay home?
No. No, I went to the grocery store
Okay. That's good.
because today is today Friday or Saturday?
For you, it's Saturday, I think. Yep.
Oh yeah, so that was yesterday. No, I stayed home for Good Friday yesterday, so
Oh, that's good. Well, hey
yeah.
man, well, thank you for agreeing to be on Good Company, my
Yeah.
podcast. This is
Yeah.
great. I grew up watching you or listening to you, so this is an honor, and I'm representing tonight. See, I got my
Ah, I saw that right away. Yeah, I
yeah.
can't believe that. I don't even have one of those.
It smells like if I like maybe a grandmother's attic right now because it's been in storage. So
Yeah,
I had to
that's
represent.
a lot of dedication to be
Yeah,
wearing
just for
it.
you. Yeah,
Yeah, you
I
might
could.
wash it and it may just disappear on you too. So it's
Yeah, could shrink. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, today I've been listening to the new Bride album, Eyes Wide Open. It is so good. I love it.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. That's the um, EP.
It's more
So
of an EP. Yeah, I should clarify that.
yeah, the LP will be out next month. So it's got 12 songs on it.
Oh, great. Okay, yeah, yeah. I get confused sometimes with the LP and the EP. So,
Yeah, what happens is that this album has been recorded for a very long time. I mean,
mm,
a year and a half probably, and it took us a while to get it mixed and get it back. Then we worked out uh, a mutual deal with Retroactive, and they wanted a marketing campaign of pushing the EP first. So I thought the EP was going to come out a couple of months earlier than it did, but it probably is coming out exactly at the right time because I don't know what other um, albums other people are putting out, and I put out so many albums myself that I don't want to compete with one of my own projects. So
right.
I don't know of anything coming out next month that I've done other than the Bride album. So
How did you get involved with Retroactive Records? Did they find you or you find them?
I've known I've known Matt Hunt for a number of years, probably maybe I don't know. It goes way back 25, 30 years probably. I mean, he's actually been to Troy's house and stuff. So nobody ever comes to my house, but they'll go to Troy's for some reason. But anyway, it's probably because of the dogs. But anyway, and now the distance. But we've known him forever, it seems like. And then when he was just starting up, um, I don't have the best memory on things, but I just know that we were without a record label, and we really didn't care if we had a record label. And Matt approached us and said, "Hey, I've sort of got a vision for you guys." And although some of my other projects that I do are with Rocks or Girder or somebody like that, we have stayed loyal to Matt with the Bride material.
Mm. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so he does this real well. He gets the albums out there. People seem most of the time to know the album is available. It's not like it was in the old days where an album came out and everybody knew about it because there was a write up in CCM magazine or Heaven's Metal magazine, or we were represented at a festival. Not anything to that degree anymore. I mean, you would think the internet would be a much better platform, but the internet has kept Bride alive. There's no
Yep.
doubt about it. I have nothing bad to say about Facebook whatsoever, because with the bad, there's the good, and for me as an artist, it's only done good.
Right.
The only thing bad about Facebook is I get myself in trouble. So the less I say, sometimes the better. Uh, but
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, Matt's been like that fifth Beatle for a long time. So
Did Matt help you guys? I don't know if Matt or if it was your guys' decision to when you released this EP. Was it hard picking these four songs that were going to go first ahead of the LP? Or
um, I didn't try to sway Matt one way or the other.
Mm.
I feel pretty confident that he has his finger on the pulse of things, and that he would have received some feedback from one person or the other, and and I think he picked the tunes that probably flowed best with the new songs.
Yeah, that first song, I guess it's the first song you released, "Make Me Want to Live Again." That isn't. I love that song. I can't stop. I mean, I play it over and over again. It's so good.
Well, it's
Great.
it's it's a really a good song. I don't think it's the best song on the album, and I'm glad he didn't release one of the other couple that I like better,
Mm.
because if I figured if people liked "Make You Want to Live," they're really going to like the rest of the album. There's no filler songs on the album whatsoever. We made sure that
Mm.
we
Oh,
tossed anything that we thought was not bride worthy. It's got to reach a certain plateau now to be bride worthy, and
oh.
if it's not, we toss it.
So when you say toss it, you write? Do you guys write a lot of songs and then pick the best, or do you just write just enough to make the album,
No,
or
we
trim?
write
Yeah.
we do write extra songs. What happens is that Troy will um, something will spark in him, and he'll let me know, and he'll say, "I'm writing the Bride album now," because he and I together are doing a lot of other stuff. As you probably know some of it with the classic cover songs that we do almost
Oh
weekly.
yes. Yeah, it's cool.
And yeah, and we have a new one of those coming out in the next couple of days too. It's going to be a surprise for everybody. But Troy does is he starts writing the Bride songs, and then he sort of gets in the zone, and he sends me the music here, and from there, if I already have lyrics written, I attempt to use those lyrics to see if they fit, see if it's the right climate, atmosphere, landscape for the song, whatever. And if not, then I will write a song according to that, write the lyrics, and then record those lyrics, send them back to Troy, see what he thinks about it. And sometimes he'll say, the chorus needs to have more of a hook. It's not memorable enough.
Mm.
Or what if you rephrase this or that? And then we sort of bounce it back and forth. And if I hear something for him like, why are we starting with the chorus? It would be better to start with the verse. Then he'll flip that around. So Troy and I have this amazing working relationship, and always have. We never argue. We never disagree.
Oh wow.
We respect one another 100%. So if Troy tells me something's not working,
Mm.
it's not working. And if I tell him I hear something in my head, he understands that he needs to do some rearranging. So it's definitely a team effort. There's not either one of us is more equal than the other in, or higher above the other one in the band. We work very cohesive,
Yeah.
and have always done that, to the chagrin of some band members who just we tried to work with certain guys, and it just it was like pulling teeth sometimes. You know how it is when you're trying to
Yeah.
write with somebody, and they either have too many ideas or they're way off in another world. Troy and I, as brothers, we seem to be on the same page 99% of the
No,
time.
that's a great point. Do you ever? I got kind of two questions. Do you ever run out of things to write about, and do you write for other people?
I
I
do
mean,
write for other people. I've been recording on about 16 to 18 different projects, not just albums, but
wow,
projects for the last few years. I've written over 1,000 songs in the last 36 months.
that's amazing.
Yeah, so I keep writing. I've got bands like Iron 501, the Thomas Thompson Earth Project, Perpetual
Mm.
Paranoia, We Are Resolute, The World Will Burn, Swingle and Thompson, Ordained. I mean, I could just keep
Wow.
naming bands. So I write for all of those bands, and I probably put out 5 or 6 albums a year, and the Reconciled, which the first album that Todd Stevens and I did is a remarkable album, and I think it did get overlooked a bit because it's not thrash metal or super duper heavy. It's more just a really great hard rock album,
Yeah.
and that's definitely one for people to listen to. But um, Yeah, I think that. What was the first part of your question?
No, well, the first part was, do you ever get kind of writer's block with so much
Oh
material?
yeah, writer. Well, to tell you the truth, I recently have had a little writer's block. I used to have a folder with I would keep about an average of 200 lyrics and completed lyrics in the folder. And oddly enough, because I've recorded so much, I've either dissected those apart to where they're no longer usable because I've used pieces of it in other songs, or I've just used the entire lyric and it's gone. So now my vault is very empty, and I also write short stories. So a
Mm.
lot of times I end up writing so much in my short stories that I'm not writing lyrics no more like I used to. I used to write lyrics every day. Now I'm writing short stories every day because I'm
Oh,
actually
wow.
getting paid for the short stories. So that's a cool thing for me is that I'm a published author in writing short stories.
What are
So
these stories about, by the way, these short stories?
they're I started off trying to just write mystery stuff, and then it turned into horror, and now it's like horror mystery combined, with always a twist at the end of the story, and they're being published and read through Scary Tales Told at Dark on Otis Gyri's podcast,
Okay.
and he's got a couple million subscribers. So it's really cool. Like this weekend, he's reading four of my stories on his podcast, and the
Oh,
stories
wow.
are about 5,000, 6,000 words. So, 30, 40 minute each read, and it takes people from point A to point B. No gore, no profanity, no sexual content. It's just spooky, eerie, setting the scene, kind of like paranormal stuff and all that. So
When growing up, before music, I guess, when you were in school, did you write a lot? I mean, was this, you sound like a super smart student, I don't know. That's cool.
I did write a lot. I started writing short stories actually when I was about 5 years old, and probably the first songs that I wrote, I was probably 12. So I started writing songs about 12 years old because by
Wow.
then I could actually make chords and follow chord patterns. And I never intended to be a solo lead guitar player or anything. I just played the basic chords and tried to come up with melodies. But at that time, I was doing more Southern gospel and very light contemporary Dallas Holmes and Praise. Rusty Goodman, Don Francisco type stuff at the time. So then it somehow it transgressed, as some people will say, but it transformed into whatever it is I'm doing today.
What music were you into growing up? What were your influences, band wise?
The early influences were Christian artists like the Imperials and Petra, and I've always listened to Christian music. And then in the secular realm, I guess, I mean, very early on, it was John Denver and Kenny Rogers and Bob Seger and stuff, people like that. And it
Yeah.
wasn't until 1980 when I heard the Seeds of Change album by Kerry Livgren that it changed my perspective on what I should be doing. That album really spoke to me like no other album. So I wasn't necessarily a big Kansas fan at the time, but I did go out and buy some Kansas albums, not knowing that Ronnie James Dio was not the singer of Kansas. And so once I educated myself that the greatest vocal on Kerry Livgren's album was Ronnie James Dio, I went out and bought some Dio stuff. I tried to stay away from the Black Sabbath stuff early on
Hmm.
because I'd heard so much about it. And all this, oh, it's super evil and stuff. So, as a young Christian, I was listening to not a young Christian, but just being young and being Christian. So I was influenced by Ronnie James Dio a great deal in my rock style, and later on, of course, I did study Black Sabbath and Rainbow and some
Oh,
of the other
yes.
bands, and then learned about guys like Ian Gillan and some of my favorite guys like that, and the Bruce Dickinsons and Rob Halfords and people like that. And
Mm.
oddly enough, I never really studied Axl Rose and really didn't have a great appreciation for Axl Rose until just a few years ago. and that's to be honest. People thought that I sounded like him or he sounded like me, but um, the inspiration or the styles that I was going for back when I was getting that Axl Rose comparison was I was listening to a lot of Aerosmith and Mother Love Bone and
Oh, I love
bands
them.
like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was listening to bands like that and Soundgarden, but uh, I had a hard time with Axl's voice. So when people said that I sounded like him, they were complimenting me, but I wasn't taking it too much as a compliment because I didn't at the time. I didn't appreciate what Axl was doing, but now I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, the guy could
Yeah.
really sing his butt
Uh-huh.
off, and he was fantastic. And I was more into the songs than I was him at the time.
Oh, okay.
You know,
They're kind of
yeah,
message and yeah, I get
yeah,
that.
the cool grooves, and it seemed like it was real life stuff. It wasn't some sort of just poetry thrown on the page like a lot of stuff I do sometimes.
Yeah.
They had lived it, and they sang about it, so that I respected them for that.
You're such a great front man. And I remember seeing you, in the 90s. How do you become a front man? And I've seen you play in front of, Brazil and all these fans and everything. Is that just come natural? You're just leading the crowd. You're in charge.
I don't like to be in a room with a lot of people. As a matter of
Wow.
fact, anybody that knows me knows that I don't have people over and I don't go to their house, and we sort of like two ships that pass in the night.
Mm,
I live pretty private. Me and my wife, my two dogs, and so even you know get-togethers I'm uncomfortable with, and I guess because I don't have any control over what really is happening. So I feel like I'm a fifth wheel out there. So I don't know why I'm so much like that. I like the idea of friends, but I'd like to keep them at arm's length, so to speak.
yeah.
And I've
Yeah.
got some very good friends, but I think that being on stage, it just gives you the opportunity to do something that's not really you.
Mm,
People think that that guy on stage is me, but that guy on stage is not me. It's a character that I've created. Um, Dale Thompson on stage is not Dale Thompson in real life.
mm,
Nothing is the same. You know, I'm just not the same guy. But when they say, "Ladies and gentlemen, here's Bride," and boom, I hit the stage, and that character, I turn into that character, and that character does what he's supposed to do or what he's expected to do. Because the only reason you're on that stage is because people have come to see you. So you want to give them what they've come to see. So
wow, that's incredible. How do you get in the headset to put yourself in that character? I mean, do you get nervous? Do you have to build up to this thing? I mean,
never get nervous. Don't think about it. I've been backstage before, right in the middle of just a conversation, leaning against the pole, and heard it was, we were announced, and somebody says, "You need to go out there." And I'm like, "Oh, already?" And I'll just go, but I never get nervous.
wow, that's amazing.
Even when I sang for Stryper, I didn't have to get my mind in that space to do it.
Mm.
I mainly tried to stay away from Janice because she was trying to put makeup on me to go out. So I was trying to hide from her. So I kind of hid backstage where nobody could see me. I'm sure they were like, "Well, where's Dale at?" Well, start. I know he's here. Saw him put on Michael's clothes, and he's coming out dressed as Michael, which I borrowed Michael's shirt or
Oh,
something.
you're wearing a shirt? That's funny.
Yeah, I think I was wearing a shirt. And anyway, they announced and I came out at that time, but I didn't because they were all back there getting dolled up because that was what you do in that day. And I'd already been through that phase and wasn't going to put any eyeliner on. So
Yeah.
I
That
come out just me.
that's funny. That's a good point that you brought up that you played in Stryper. A lot of people don't know you guys did a show, right? It was in the 91, 92 ish, somewhere around
Yeah,
there.
Brad had just toured with Stryper, and Stryper is known for doing these long tours like they're doing now. Because I just hooked up with the boys here in New Zealand a few weeks ago, and it's quite cool because that was huge for Brad to tour with Stryper. We were their
Yeah.
opening act, and Stryper liked us so well that they allowed us to come back out for encores. So I knew that, wow, that's cool. Bride's getting an encore at a Stryper show. And I didn't think much about it. And then Robert pulled me to the side near the end, and he said, "Mike's leaving us." And he didn't give me any detail. I didn't get any real detail. I think, from what I understood, is that he just felt like he should be doing something different than Stryper at the time. I don't know if that's what it was. I never foreseen myself as a long term replacement, because you can't replace Michael and Stryper. Michael and Robert are Stryper, basically. I mean, Oz too,
Yes.
but even if Oz were to leave, it would be Michael, and it's like Brad.
So,
You're
yeah, I
not
was
going to
just gonna say
replace
that.
Troy
Yeah.
now.
Yep. Exactly.
So so anyway, yeah, I did. I think it was two sets in one night or something like that. And yeah, so it was somewhat short lived, but we really used it to slingshot Bride at that time. And I remember Cornerstone, the record label Star Song, did up a newspaper, and it basically the headlines were, "Is Dale leaving Bride for Stryper?" And they handed out like 5,000 of these newspapers to float around Cornerstone that year. And so everybody was reading it, and people that really didn't know who I was, or followed Brad, but were huge Stryper fans, want to know, well, who is this guy that is worthy to step into Mike's shoes?
Hmm.
But I just thought it was just a fantastic experience. I stayed with Robert out there in California, and man, he was such a cool guy to hang with. And then since then, Oz and I have become much better friends.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I saw him the other night. Got to meet
I
Perry
saw
for the
that. Yeah.
first time. Yeah,
That was
yeah.
really
I was Dale Thompson, the rock star that night. I
yep.
put on my rock star face, and I just
You
went around
should.
like a maniac. So
That,
I said,
that's
yeah, I might
awesome.
not be able to ever do it again. I might as well do it here at the Stryper show.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we
I,
we talked to fans. It was great.
I
So
was so ready for you to go on stage and do a song with them. I was just waiting, I was like, that'd been
I was
killer.
I was hoping deep down, but not expecting it. I was
Yep.
kind of hoping to say, we have somebody here tonight. Might want to come up and do
Oh
the Hell
yeah.
with the Devil with us, because I was gonna rip that song. I had
Yeah.
it already in my head. I was gonna go up there and just let it fly. And I think somebody asked Mike, and Mike's like, "Well, we haven't rehearsed anything or anything
Oh,
like that."
okay.
But
Yeah.
I very seldom rehearse anything these days, so it doesn't matter to me.
Right,
Uh, if I don't know the song, I'll just scream. So
right. uh
yeah,
you wrote a book. It was kind of an online book, right? It wasn't a print, but I remember reading something on your website. Can you talk about that? I mean, is it
it's
still out
still
there?
on the yeah, it's still on the broadpub.com site, and it only goes up to the Absolute Records days with Des Dickerson and
Okay.
the Fistful of Bees album, and that is basically from my perspective only. I do think that I allowed either Scott Hall or Steve Osborne, maybe Scott Hall, to write a little piece in there to amend something that I said that he didn't agree with, and I was fine with that. But after Absolute Records, we've never written on it again. And I think, to if we were to finish the book, Troy and I would actually have to sit down and write it together, because I don't have the same memories as he does. If he shows me a picture, I can remember things, but if he's talking about it, it brings up memories, and then we can discuss it. And it would be cool if we had somebody to get us both together for a few days and finish the book out. But
Mhm.
I don't foresee that happening anytime soon.
Yeah, it was a great read, and I don't like to read. I like to listen to audio. So it was that. But I was thinking as you were saying that, I was thinking how cool it'd be if you guys had a podcast where you tell stories like that. That would be so cool.
Yeah, because if I get on live stuff by myself, I ramble. So Troy
Okay.
would have to do it to keep me in the subject that we're talking about. So yeah, that would be kind of cool. And there's a likelihood of it, because I am planning on coming back to the States, where we're in the process now of filling out the paperwork and doing all the things that you have to do to sell a house and move back to another country. So
Oh, okay. Um, this great. You mentioned Greater. I think I'm pronouncing that right. They re-released your albums. on
Oh, Girder
Girder.
Records.
Girder, I'm
Yeah,
sorry, Girder. Yeah, I got them right here.
yeah.
I love that they're doing this. This is so cool. So I'm assuming they just you guys got together and decided to release these. This is amazing for the fans.
Um, we weren't really what was I say? We weren't part of that. They just released them.
Oh, okay, okay. How do you feel
So,
about that? I mean, were you glad they were released, or I mean,
I'm
you're not getting
glad they're
paid for them.
released, but I'm not getting paid for
Yeah, that's
it.
terrible.
Yeah, there's a lot of that out there right now. There's a lot of bands that have albums floating around that nobody's paying them for. If I bring a new band to a record label, they'll pay me what you call a finder's fee.
Hmm.
But because the market has shrank so much, record companies are no longer buying your albums and supporting the band as such. They're wanting you to give them the album, and then they'll give you some product, and then from there, you're pretty much on your own. So there's no labels really doing that where it used to be in the old days. You were part of the label.
Yes.
These are all one album deals. You want the album? Oh, great! You're going to give me a couple $100 for it? Sure, I'll take it. It's better than nothing,
Oh,
you know.
okay. Yeah.
And yeah, so and some of them will let you keep your digital royalties, but I think that's the least they can do because if they want a band to continue, they're going to have to support the bands, and that's why so many bands do one album and they're done with it. I've got projects now that haven't been released because they can't get the support uh,
Yeah.
that they need, and the market's flooded. There's too many bands right now. I don't think the bands are being policed the way that they should to see. I think they're just putting them out because somebody's recorded something,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not always good for the market, because you're giving the consumer too much to think about. I used to love the fact that I waited for an album. I didn't buy an album
Yes.
for a few weeks, and finally I got that album. Now there's a new album every
Mm.
day. And I mean, and look who's talking. I'm the guy that's throwing out albums left and right, but I'm trying to only do the quality work. When somebody approaches me, I've actually had to say no to a few people just because I just didn't think they were where they needed to be. They needed to improve before I put my name associated with it. But the bands that I have been associated with, I really believe in. I think that these guys are writing some good music. That, at least in the camp and in that circle that I'm in.
Mm. What's I kind of want to talk about a couple of records that were huge influence on me, and that's Kinetic Faith. That
Oh
album.
yeah,
Do you ever go back and listen to these albums?
very seldom. I don't listen to a lot of music now. Mainly, it's like background music. Like if I'm
Mhm.
writing and I've got some sort of ambient thing on that I'm listening to in the background. It has
Yeah.
no vocals, so it can't influence me writing lyrics. But no, I know that Kinetic Faith was a powerful album, and that album would have never came to be. But Des Dickerson and Mike Kyle from Star Song Records came to see us play a showcase for them in Louisville, Kentucky, and they were so impressed. They said, "Well, let's do two songs. We'll do Everybody Knows My Name, and we'll do Same Old Sinner, and we'll put them on an album, and we'll just see how it goes." Because they didn't want to commit because they didn't have a band like us and didn't know what might be, what it might
Yeah.
be. I think Dez saw something in us because he come from that era. He was in Prince and all that. He worked with Prince,
Oh,
and
that's cool.
so he was Prince's guitar player. So he saw something in us, and that those two singles did so well, like 15 weeks at number 1 and stuff like that. That they had to do something. They couldn't let us go at that point. So we signed a 3 record deal with them to do the Kinetic Faith, the Snakes in the Playground. But when it came to Scarecrow Messiah, we didn't like what Star Song was doing as a
Huh.
company. So we talked to John and Dino Elefante, and they flew us to California, and we recorded Scarecrow Messiah out there. And pretty much they told Star Song, we've got Bride's next album right here, but you don't get it unless you do whatever. I don't even know what they said, but we'll give you the album.
Oh, they're
Or you
holding it
can have them,
hostage.
yeah, or you can either have them do another album and they're out of their contract, we're releasing this one. So I don't know what the deal was. I wasn't
Yeah.
involved in that. I just was glad somebody was on our side because I just felt like the label was going one way and telling us one thing, and we were anticipating much more, and it never came. And then when John and Dino stepped in, it was like, hey, these guys are our best, our two new best friends. They care about what we're doing.
Hmm.
So anyway, that's the way those three albums came. It seems like we do albums in threes, so we'll see what happens after this one's released.
So Snakes in the Playground was like for me, that was such a huge album for me. Did you guys know in the following, Connect Faith, did you guys know you had like a really good album? Like, how'd you feel about Snakes in the Playground?
We felt like we were the best band going at the time in any field.
Mm.
We felt like we could hold our own against anybody live, and if we could capture that live vibe in the studio, we actually captured more of the live vibe in on Kinetic Faith, I think, but the mix dumbed it down a little. We weren't happy with the mix on Kinetic Faith at first, but the more we got used to it, I realized Steve Griffith, who produced it, if I think if he'd have been more forthright on how he was going to do it, we wouldn't have been offended by his initial mix.
Mm.
But we went with that mix, and the more it grew on us, I was like, Steve might just be a genius. But then when Plinky came along, I know sometimes it takes me forever to catch on. And when
No.
Plinky came along and produced Snakes, he brought up the rawness that we felt like we were, and there was so much energy on that album that throwing in two ballads didn't slow up the momentum of the album at all. So that we knew that was going to be a good album, and that was a hard fought album too because we recorded in a studio in Nashville that parts kept breaking down. We had
Oh
to have a
no.
tech in. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff going on in the studio. Uh, you know, between the tension and the recording and just being exhausted, and I would sing like 8 hours,
Wow.
and the worst thing you want to hear from a producer is, yeah, that was fantastic, Dale, but I think you got one more in you. I think you got a better one in you. Let's hit that again. It's
Mm.
like, are you out of your mind? Yeah.
Do you ever lose your voice? I mean, do you ever burn out like that in the studio?
No, no, I never have. The only time I've lost my voice twice. Once it was in Brazil at the end of a tour, and I think that was basically stress because we literally went to Hades and back on that tour, and that
Mm.
was the last show, and we were dead to the world. And somewhere in North Carolina or South Carolina, somewhere, I just had to apologize and say, guys, I'm shot. I can't do it. And then I found out I had a lacerated vocal cord, and
Mm.
they wanted to do surgery on me at that point. So instead of doing surgery, I just prayed a lot, and I went into Fistful of Bees with no voice. So that's why there's no big screams on Fistful of Bees, is because
Wow.
I had a lacerated vocal cord, so I had major damage in there. And since then,
Oh
I've
no, that's
damaged it worse. Yeah, but I've learned how to work it since I've never had it repaired. So
wow. I never knew that. Yeah. So slowly you
yeah,
slowly got back. Yeah. When you were
yeah.
doing when you guys were doing Snakes in the Playground, did you have all the stuff written before you guys hit the studio, or were you writing and recording at the same time?
We had everything pre-produced except the song "Goodbye," which we wrote in the studio.
Hmm. Okay.
Troy had the melody on the piano, and I had lyrics, and so I wrote this. I wrote the lyrics there, and Planky, who was a better piano player at the time than Troy, said, "Well, let me play the piano, and
Oh,
I'll
cool.
play the piano on it." And that's how it came about. So
Oh, he played the piano. I didn't know that. Yeah.
yeah,
How
if
long
my memory serves right, I'm pretty sure it was Planky who played piano. Yeah,
did you guys tour that record to death? I mean, I think I saw you guys on that tour, but was that a
we
long run?
we Yeah, well, we did, but I think we did Scarecrow not too long after that, really. I know
Okay.
that with Snakes in the Playground, we went to Brazil, we went to Europe,
Oh yeah.
Scandinavia, up through Canada and stuff. And I think with Scarecrow we did some Scandinavian and Germany stuff, but slowly the market started changing. Something dreadful happened, which is called praise and worship, and and all these youth pastors that were involved in bringing bands like Bride and Barren Cross and Guardian and all these bands out to do shows. They decided to set up their own stages, create their own bands, and buy their own light show and their fog machines, and call it youth church. And so, next thing you know, heavy metal bands were a thing of the past, and um, you just had a lot of these contemporary artists coming in and doing the shows. But I blame the decline of Christian hard rock heavy metal on youth pastors alone.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting because a lot of people always talk about grunge destroying that kind of scene, the hard. I'm not calling you guys the '80s scene or anything like that, but interesting enough that kind of style of music affected what you guys were doing as well. So, what do you think
Yeah,
about the grunge? Did that have an effect on you as well? The whole Nirvana thing coming around.
well, Seattle had an effect on everybody, whether they admit it or not. It definitely did. I mean, from the tones of your guitar to the people changing the melodies. I mean, to not change at that time when bands like Nirvana and Pearl Jam were so big,
Mm,
uh, and they swept away everything. I mean, you had to change some. Bands like Metallica didn't have to change because they were
mm,
heavy metal all the time, and then they changed almost to their demise. Bands like Bride wasn't heavy enough not to change, so we had to
mm.
do something to be relevant, and that's why we did the Jesus Experience. I thought the Jesus
Yeah,
Experience was a good
that's.
representation of
Mhm.
both rock and grunge sort of combined together. The Worm was definitely 100%. Nirvana. That's what we were going for.
Yeah. I want to go back to the Scarecrow Messiah. I'm such a geek. I printed it out and framed it.
I
um,
don't even have one of those.
but yeah, I mean, yeah, this is yeah. I wish this was on vinyl, and I wish you got paid for it if it was on vinyl. The I love the album cover though. And speaking, like, how did you guys pick this album cover? I'm assuming that's you fronting the
Yeah,
band.
yeah. And most people don't even see that. So they
I
just
didn't
see it.
see that when I was
Yeah.
younger. Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, what is that? I was like, it's me. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah. Uh, Tony Thigpen from Star Song, I think, created that. I think so. Created that. And I think I just sent him a picture. And I thought they would have put a collage or something like that together. And she come up with that. He said, that works for us. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I love this album. And I remember reading in your book, you're like, weren't there pressures to follow up Snakes in the Playground?
Oh, there was massive, and there still is to this day. Everything that we do, people will say, a good, you guys did a good album, but Snakes is still my favorite. Guys, how come not a Snakes 2? I said, I've done Snakes 2. It's called Scarecrow Messiah,
Oh,
you
I
know, and
love Scarecrow Messiah. I mean, that album's amazing too. I think you did
yeah,
a great job.
and then we did This Is It, which is my favorite Pride
I
album.
love
And
that album. Yeah, I'm
and
sorry.
I
Cut you
said,
off.
that's Snakes, it's Snakes 2. There's you
Yes.
another Snakes 2. And people just didn't get it. And I'll tell you why, because they were in a different place than they were when they heard Snakes. For some reason, when
Hmm.
Snakes came out, the majority of the hard rock fans of this genre, they all seem to be in a place that it connected with them. And then I think they may have moved on, but we didn't.
Mm.
We come out with Snakes 2 on Scarecrow Messiah, and by then I think maybe they weren't so much over it, but they didn't know. I don't think people really knew what Snakes 2 was supposed to sound like. I mean, what, just redo all the songs again? I mean, that's
Hmm.
the only way to get Snakes 2. This new album that we've got coming out called Are You Awake? Uh, it smokes, it rips. It
Oh
is
yeah.
it is it is Snakes in the Playground. It's just 30 years later.
Right.
So you got an old dude singing. You got just it's just normal heavy rock riffs like Troy plays. It's
Hmm.
we're not inventing the wheel. We're actually just doing what we do. And
Your voice is incredible, even over the years. You're talking about 30 years later, and you're so strong. I mean, I guess you just take care of your voice. I mean, it's just amazing. That I mean, you can't. The older you get, your voice still sounds the same. Sounds even better.
Well, my technique to singing is do not warm up because it wears out your voice before you sing. Only drink water. That will go against every vocal teacher that's ever taught vocals, but I've never had a vocal lesson, so
Oh wow.
uh, it works for me. And I never wanted to learn to do something so properly that it took the rock out of it. I've seen people do rock music and do covers. There's a couple of people that come to mind, and sometimes it's spot on, and then sometimes they're so their technique and everything is so formatted. It just looks so rehearsed rather than just being just that raw, let it come out. I know where to pull my vocal from, whether it's my gut, my diaphragm, my throat,
Hmm.
swirl the words around in my mouth and spit them out with my tongue. I just know what feels right. So that's what I do. I don't have to go, oh, well, this song I need to get my head voice. I don't even know what that's talking
Hmm.
about.
No.
I just heard people talk about that. So,
I, I'm gonna hit you with a couple random things that I'm thinking of. The first one is speaking to the machine. I had a into the machine T-shirt that I wore out and it had holes in it. Will you ever bring that project back, or is that a done thing?
well, I have been doing a lot of solo stuff. I did the Speaking to the Machine. That was my first real solo thing, a very experimental acid rock, just bizarre from one end to the other, And I did another solo album I did was the Dale Thompson and the Religious Overtones, and then Dale Thompson and the Kentucky Cadillacs. That was two blues albums. I did the
Oh yeah,
Acoustic
yeah, yeah. That's right.
Daylight.
Hmm.
Yeah, the Acoustic Daylight I did with Greg Martin of Kentucky Headhunters. He played guitar on it, and I sang. So it's just me and Greg in the studio. I taught him the songs, and right there in the studio, and he played them, and we recorded live. So that's called Acoustic Daylight. I did one called Unbridled, which I'm not real happy with. Uh, but anyway, it still got picked up and distributed. And then I started the band Dale Thompson and the Boondogs, and we're working on our third album.
Oh, nice. And so all these projects you're doing, they're all available. Is it the Bride Hub? Is that am I saying that right? I mean, I haven't been on there in a while, but isn't there
Uh,
one source you can get it from?
well, the best place to get it because we have stopped selling our own albums. We just haven't had time and to keep up. Is a Boone's
Oh yes.
overstock.com. That's the best place to find it. Or if you go over to the Girder music site, they've got the with Brad, they'll have some of the special release albums and stuff, the cool vinyl, the blue vinyl, red vinyls, and
Hmm.
remastered and stuff.
Yeah, is your new EP that you guys are putting out that's available on Boone's as well, right? Or is that
Yeah,
just Girder? Yeah.
no, that's Boone's. That is something that Matt Hunt put together. So
Is that limited edition, this new EP? Is it like only a
I
certain amount of
I think
copies,
it's
maybe?
sold out. Yeah, I think it's already
Hmm.
sold out. It was a couple hundred, 250 copies or something. So if somebody got it, they got something really rare.
Well,
So
that's good. I mean, you guys gonna release more, or is that it?
I think that's it until the album comes out. And I don't know what Matt's marketing strategy is. It's when we record now, it's kind of like we go through the birthing process and we have the child and we just hand it to somebody and hope they raise it well and we never see it again. So it's just
Yeah.
you know and the way that I'm recording now is I don't have to learn the songs because I'm not touring. So I honestly don't know any of the new material whatsoever. I just recorded it and off it goes.
Oh wow. Okay.
Um, yeah, so I don't spend days rehearsing a song before I record it. When Troy sends me a song,
Hmm.
I immediately open up my recording equipment and I start recording. And in 2 hours, I'm done with the song and send it back to him.
Okay.
Where
So
in the old days it was weeks.
yeah, yeah. Are you so
Yeah,
are you
go
are
ahead.
you I'm sorry. Are you becoming tech savvy? I mean, it sounds like you know what you're doing
I
over there.
don't I don't have a clue. I do not have a clue. Matter of fact, this microphone here. I've got two of these, and I've got a little audio box USB PreSonus, and all the vocals goes into there. And the only thing that I know to do to raise my vocals up and down is either get close to the mic or back up.
Yeah, I'm about the same.
And yeah, yeah, it's like that's kind of loud. I better back up another few inches, that type of
So are you guys? So you said you mentioned you're not touring. Are you not touring anymore at all, or is you
we
retired
haven't
from the
played
stage?
we haven't played a live show in about 12 years.
Really?
And if I get back to the States and we can work it out, Troy and I have talked about going out and playing shows, even if it's just Troy and I going out and playing like the people's favorite songs that they want to hear, like Everybody Knows My Name, Would You Die For Me, Psychedelic Super Jesus, some of those songs like that. And we make it a storytelling
Oh, nice.
event.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people say I wouldn't come unless you played full blown, and I'm like, I'm glad I wouldn't want you there anyway. Matter of fact, if we play full blown, don't come. That type of
Right. Well,
thing. It's like
I remember
so.
seeing you guys play acoustic at Atlanta Fest. I want to say back in the day.
Troy
Yeah.
and I used to rip it up acoustically. I mean, he would beat the guitar like he was trying to, you know, pray a grenade out from underneath of somebody to toss it away. I mean, he would brutalize his acoustic guitar, and I would still do all the screaming and the singing. We just didn't have the drums and bass behind us, so we did feel a bit naked without Jerry and Rick in those days.
Yeah.
If they weren't there. Uh, that was a good lineup of Bride. That was
Absolutely.
a monster band.
That was I
Yeah.
know that's not the original lineup, but to me that's like the classic lineup is, Jerry and Ricky and,
Yeah.
Troy and you guys. It's a shame, I guess do you ever with Ricky passing, right? That was
Yeah, Rick
yeah.
Rick passed away a couple of years ago, and I didn't even know he was sick. I didn't get word that he was sick until the day before he died.
Wow.
So he sort of kept it to himself. But he had cancer, and he ended up passing away. Jerry is actually quite busy, quite active. He plays in a cover band called Rumors in the Louisville, Southern Indiana area, and he's some sort of assistant pastor at a church somewhere right
Whoa.
now.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah,
That'd be
yeah.
cool if
So
you guys
yeah,
did his acoustic stuff and you had him play like some djembe or something. Like
yeah, yeah.
that'd be
Troy's got a
cool.
djembe he could use. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
would.
that's
That'd
really
be
cool.
it'd be cool. Jerry was always the guy that we wanted behind the kit. He was the guy that we had most confidence in. And then this young kid named Michael Lloyd came along who beat the drums like a beast. And Mike, we wanted to do the album. Mike learned the songs and he blasted onto the scene. He's the one that played on "This Is It," and
Oh, nice. Yeah.
yeah, and he played whatever came after that. He played an album that came over after that. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Michael Lloyd played more live shows than Jerry did.
Really?
Yeah, and most people don't remember that. But Mike's got a band, and I can't remember it now. He's got a Christian band. They're more contemporary rock type band, but
Hmm.
man, they're really really good. If I don't, I mean, you can find Mike on Facebook, but I forget the name of the band.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I don't know
Yeah.
why I'm plugging him. Mike won't write me back anymore. So,
Well, that stinks, man. I got a
yeah.
couple more little props here I was wanting to show you.
All right.
You talk about being on magazine covers, Heaven's Metal. Do you ever miss
Oh
these
yeah,
days?
I do miss those days.
Eh?
It's for me, it wasn't even an ego boost to
Yeah.
be on the cover of a magazine. It was more like it validated the status in my mind that we were still relevant to some degree. So I
Right.
was always worrying that this is it, guys. Probably one more year and we're done. And here it is, 40 years and we're still going. So that's
Yeah.
pretty bad.
It's pretty
I
cool to
lost.
show your parents too. Like, look, I'm on a magazine cover, like
Oh yeah,
you
yeah.
flex a little.
And Troy and I have always had great uh, connection with our parents who have supported us from the beginning. Even when we didn't know what we were doing, we made them think we knew what we were doing so they wouldn't worry. So
That's good. Did
yeah.
Does anyone in your family, like you and Troy, do you guys collect bride stuff from the past, or you got? I mean, is your family, or do you have, or do you just don't? You're not a big collector.
I think Troy keeps one of everything that we do, at least maybe two. I've got a partial bit, but it's just basically to make sure that I don't forget what I've done. I've got a Silence's Madness on the wall. Here is Your God on the wall. I got a bunch of Live to Die and stuff that they sent me over here, and Show No Mercy albums that they sent from Girder, but they're all still in the boxes. So
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I mean, I don't have a big collection of anything. The only thing I have a collection of is things that the record companies would send me too much of.
Oh,
Like
okay.
I'm in bloody New Zealand, so you send me 50 CDs. What am I going to do with 50 CDs in New Zealand? There's only 6 Bride fans in the whole country, so uh, it costs too much to mail them out. So those are going to go to homeless people or something. I don't know. I'll hand them out sooner or later. Like, here, I want an album. I don't have $1, but I'll give you an album.
You
So,
should just give them to your kids on Christmas. I'm sure they'd appreciate that.
yeah, I don't even know if my kids listen to what I do. I
Yeah,
have
do
to
they?
ask them.
That's a good question.
Well, my oldest 2 sons, Alex and Zachary, are known to be musicians, so they do listen. And I send stuff to my youngest son, Jordan, and he'll comment and say, "Hey, that's pretty cool, Dad," or you know. But Jordan's not making music. But Jordan's actually all 3 of them can sing really well, but they've got other interests. I guess they've
Oh
seen the
yeah.
road that I've gone down, and they're like, don't want to go down that road, boy. You never get out of there. It's a rabbit hole,
Right on. Does your wife listen to Bride? Is she a Bride fan or any of your projects?
That's a crazy thing because I moved here to get married, right? I got to take a leg brace off real quick.
Oh, yeah.
I got a torn meniscus in my knee right now, so I put that on. I lose circulation. But no, it's a weird thing because we just had our ninth year wedding anniversary a few days ago,
Oh,
and
congratulations.
yeah, thank you. And the reason that we're even together is because I was single and she was single at the time. Both had another life before the life we were living, and it was on New Year's Eve. Must have been 2013, maybe. I think. I'm guessing at some dates, but anyway. And I was up late, by myself, talking to fans on the computer like I do. And it's when they used to have that poke button
Yeah. Oh
on
yeah, yeah.
Facebook.
I remember
So
that.
I saw a
MySpace?
picture,
Yeah.
MySpace or Facebook
One of
one,
those,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I poked her or whatever, just to say, "Hey, what's going on? Hope you're having a." I didn't even know who she was. I just saw there's a very pretty blonde.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll just make some contact here. I'd already probably talked to 5 or 10 people, and I was winding down for the night and everything, and then I get a poke back, and I'm like, "Oh." I'm like, "Hey, how are you? Where you from?" I live in New Zealand. I'm like, "Well, that's over quick. That,
Right.
that ain't gonna work." And so we started talking, and we Skype dated for several months, and then I said, "Why don't I come out to New Zealand and see you?" I said, we can tour around the country. You can show me the country and stuff. And as I've never been to New Zealand, I've been other places, but never there. She said, "Oh yeah, yeah." So she took her holiday, and I came here, and we toured around the North Island, and decided that, yeah, I think probably should get married.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
so I went back to the U.S., not knowing what all it would entail. I did have to get a tourist visa to come, so I knew how difficult it was to get a tourist visa. So then I had to get another type of visa. But she said she honestly didn't think I was coming back. She just figured once I left, that was it, and
Yeah.
back to normal life. And then I started telling her, "You need to be looking for an engagement ring." She's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, you need to find yourself an engagement ring. I've got 3 cars, and I just sold one of them, so I'm getting some money together and stuff to come back." And then end up selling my house, got rid of the cars, found homes for my dogs, all that stuff, and came here. And in 2014, we got married. So and
Wow.
to find out she had my albums.
Oh, she did. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't her favorite band, but she had my albums. So
That's great. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a huge step, man. Selling all your stuff and moving like that.
it's
That's big.
pretty insane.
No, I
I've
mean it's
I've,
not insane. It's just big.
I've always been a risk taker. You know, I've always, if my gut says to do it, I just do it. I don't have any fear. My biggest fear of anything in this life is is probably not having fear. So I mean, I'll tackle
Wow.
anything. I boxed for 20 something years, so you learn that you can't let fear be a factor. If you have to keep your mind on what you're doing. You
Right.
you can't think of failure. You have to think, I'm going to overcome whatever's in front of me. And yeah, so yeah, I guess if I was standing on the edge of a building somewhere, I might be a bit frightful, but I don't think the word fear is exactly the right word. So
Wow, man, that's crazy, man. I fear so many things. Do you ever do any dangerous stuff like skydiving? I mean, do you ever fear about
I've
that kind of stuff?
I have skydived before. That was way cool. I didn't get as much out of it as people get out of it though, because I really didn't know what to expect. I was someplace and Troy pulled up at the drive in his convertible Mustang. He's got a nice classic convertible Mustang, and this was years ago. And this was right before Drop, the album Drop. And he
Yeah.
pulls up and he goes, "Hey, I want to go skydiving. You want to go?" I'm like, "Okay."
Wow.
So
Yeah.
jumped in the car and
Just like that.
off we went and paid $150 and went up and jumped out tandem, and that was quite cool.
That
Troy actually loved it so much that he bought two airplanes and he's become a pilot. So
oh, that's crazy. I need to interview that guy. I think I got to interview Troy sometime, man. That's cool.
Troy, you got to ask Troy the right questions though. You got to Troy is a enigma. He
Is he?
unless you ask him, he's not going to reveal anything. I'll tell you anything, even if you don't ask. Troy's different. He's Troy. It's not like he's got anything hiding in the closet, but he's got a lot of things going on that you just wouldn't think of. So
Is he your older brother or younger brother?
he's younger than me, but 2 years and so many months.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but I got the looks, so that's what is the good part out of it. He got the
There you
brains, I got the good looks.
go. Yeah, man, that's awesome. Well, Dale, man, I really appreciate you being on the show. This means a lot to me.
Hey,
I grew up
I
listening to
appreciate
you.
it. If somebody didn't show interest, then it would be a bit of a drab thing, to think that you've completely been forgotten.
No,
So
no,
and it's funny because when you asked me about doing this,
yeah.
I had just posted a video and I had said, I'm not doing any more interviews with
Oh, really?
anybody for any reason. If you want to talk to somebody, talk to my brother. And I posted that. The next day, you wrote and you said, "Would you like to do an interview?" I was like, "No, that guy's gutsy, man." I just said,
I
"I
didn't
said,
even know he said that. That's funny.
yeah." I was like, "Did he just see me post that?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll get you on the show."
Oh no, man, I'm not gutsy. That's funny. I had no idea. That's hilarious. You did an interview with my buddy Joel from Imaginary Music. That was cool that
Oh
you're on there.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? He was so kicked back and laid back. And I didn't know him. I know people by their pictures, right, on
Right.
Facebook. And
Yeah.
if you ever change your picture on Facebook, I think you're a new person. I can't. I just don't know if it changes. I'm like, okay, I don't know who that is. But I knew his face because he's had that picture up for a while. And yeah, I was like, yeah, that's real cool. I'm glad he got a hold of me on that.
Yeah, and also I'm buddies with Jericho, Chris Jericho, and you got to be on his show, man, because he loves
Uh,
rap.
do you know how to get a hold of Jericho?
Yeah, yeah, I'll reach out to him.
Because Jericho and I were really good friends years ago.
Mhm.
He approached me. He contacted me on Facebook or MySpace or something and said, "Hey, you might not know who I am, but my name is Chris Irvine. I wrestle on the WWF or WWE, whatever it was." And he said, "I just want to let you know I love what you're doing. I'm a Christian. I'm a huge fan." So I'm like, okay, for real, who are you? And why would you think that I believe that you're the real Chris Jericho? And he writes back and he goes, why would I think you're the real Dale Thompson? And
That's great.
I said, okay, here's my phone number. Call me. So phone rings. It's Chris. Hello. Hey, Chris Jericho here. I'm like, get out of here, man. That's like so
That's awesome.
Chris came to Louisville and we went to church
Oh,
together. We
cool.
had pizza together. He came another time and we were backstage and stuff. And then Fozzy came through and
Yeah.
you know, hanging out with him on the tour bus and stuff. But after this is over, send me Chris's info because I've moved. I've left the planet basically and I've lost contact with him. I mean, not just that I want to be on a show, but I just want to say hi to him and let him know that, you know, I wasn't like I had forsaken our friendship. So
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Yeah, that's
yeah.
cool. I didn't know all
Yeah.
that. I didn't know you guys went to church together and ate pizza. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. My mom, who is actually a black belt in Taekwondo,
Oh,
demonstrated
cool.
a karate chop to Chris while he was eating pizza at Pizza Hut, and she almost came too close with the chop to the throat. I
Oh,
was like,
really?
"Mom, please!" And Chris was like, "Whoa, feisty little woman." Yeah,
Oh, that's great.
yeah, it's nuts.
All right, then. Well, I appreciate it again, man. Being on the show, this means the world to me. So thank you
All
so
right,
much.
yeah. Thank you, and let me know. Are you do you post this somewhere?
Yes, I'll post it on YouTube, and then I'm part of a classic metal show network, the CMS network, and it'll be posted on that side as well. It'll probably be posted in a few weeks. Yeah, maybe
All
two
right,
weeks.
yeah, just yeah, hit me up and send me a tag on it or something, so I'll
Absolutely.
promote it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, hey, appreciate it a whole lot. You take care of yourself.
You too, Tel. Let's keep in touch, man. I'll let you know
All
about
right.
Chris or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Let me know. Let me know. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Hey, take care, Dale. Thank you.
Hey, God bless.
You too, man.